Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Monday, July the 21st. And welcome to our commentary. Let me just quickly recommend the video that we did on Sunday with Frank Burke. It was really an interesting video, kind of historical, nostalgic. We went back to July 20th, 1969, both of us who were there, or remember being there, watching it on TV, the moon landing and Apollo 11, and we shared a few memories of that day. And I had a lot of fun doing it. So I hope you enjoy it as well. It's the video before this one, pretty easy to find there in your archives. Well, I think one of the big stories today continues to be NPR, and I've got a post about this coming out Tuesday morning. You know, the people at NPR do not seem to understand why they lost half of the country or why a GOP majority would want to defund them. And it's all their fault. I mean, basically, they did it to themselves, as Professor Jonathan Turley wrote. I'm linking to the article that the professor wrote, but they did it to themselves. And they did it to themselves with their bias and their coverage. Like many media organizations, they got hung up on Trump. They got obsessed with Trump, and they tilted their coverage in such a way to make people who voted for Trump look like racist and homophobic and all these things they like to say at people. And, eventually those people elected a Congress and a president, and they don't want to hear crap like this. They certainly don't want to pay for it. I mean, if they want to do those shows and do that kind of coverage, I don't care. But we certainly don't want to pay for it. And that's what this is all about. This is all about. This is not about shutting down NPR. They will continue to exist. I mean, you can still go to their frequency, and it'll still be there. But what you're not going to have is public funding. You're not going to have whatever the amount of money is. They claim to be a very small amount of money, but they keep asking for it. But whatever the amount of money is, at least we now know that they're not going to get money from the federal treasury, and that's the way it should be. I mean, I think NPR should be privately funded like any other radio station is. They should compete for listeners or viewers in the case of PBS in much the same way that, everybody else has to do it. And, they've got pretty good audiences, actually. I remember hearing that the morning program at NPR gets like 2 or 3 million people. Well, if that's true, they should be able to get plenty of advertisers to pick up the tab. I mean, there's no reason for them to depend on any money from the federal treasury. And, whatever, they maybe sell sponsorships or do whatever they want to do to get or pay their way or keep their programs on. I think they also exaggerated in their defense or their attacks against the Congress, the value of the station when it comes to weather programming and that kind of thing. And one of the things that Professor Turley pointed out in his article, which again, I'm linking to it in my post coming out tomorrow morning, one of the things that he pointed out is that, frankly, the audience of NPR is primarily white and very liberal. And that's who listens to it. So where are you likely going to find the radio on listening to NPR? Usually in a very liberal household or college professor's office, not all of them, but many of them. And that's it. And the audience is very white. They don't really appeal that much to minorities, Hispanic or African American. That's just not their audience. So, look, they need to go out there and make it on their own, like everybody else does it. And and I wish them well. I nothing against them. I hope they're able to, turn it around and survive on their own work. And if that's the case, power to them. I hope that they do very well. But the days of being subsidized or getting money from the federal government, those days are over. And the way they are reacting to all of this simply proves the point that they are completely disconnected from reality. They're out of touch, unfortunately, with most of the country, at least half of the country, let's say all of those red counties between San Francisco and Washington, D.C. When you look at the county by county map and you see all that red, They're disconnected from that part of the country. And that's why that part of the country eventually elected a Congress that did what they wanted to do, which is to defund NPR and PBS. So I wish everybody a lot of success over there. Now that they got to make it on their own, I hope they can. But if they cannot, hey, welcome to the club. There won't be the first nor the last radio station or TV station that had to change because they were not paying their bills. There continued to be problems with sanctuary cities. The latest one is up in New York, where a couple of illegals were, I guess, arrested for shooting an off-duty police officer right in the face. I guess the guy is okay. Thankfully, the police officer is okay. But these two people who were arrested, again, it's the same profile. People who have committed crimes and they're allowed to live here. One guy, I guess, left the country and came back. And this is the problem, that we continue to run into these situations where these sanctuary cities are, in fact, a sanctuary for criminals. And there's going to be a clash here. There needs to be a clash between the Trump administration and some of these cities. And they're going to have to take some very drastic action, because what is happening in these cities and the sanctuary that they are creating for, unfortunately, a lot of criminals is not good for the country. It's not good for those communities, to say the least. I mean, if you live in LA and the local police is not allowed to arrest some of these people, as is the case in many other places, then that's hurting the people who live there. It's not hurting, the political class, because they don't even live in those neighborhoods. But it is affecting the people who live in those neighborhoods. And I think the public is going to have to start putting pressure on some of these local politicians to do what they have to do, which is to work with ICE. Well, if you've been watching the news, and you probably heard that Hunter Biden is back in the news. I have no idea why anybody would want to interview Hunter Biden, but I guess somebody did. And I think it's somebody out of New York who interviewed him. I don't know what in the world Hunter Biden can contribute to our politics. In fact, if I was a Democrat, the last that Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, any of these people, the less said from these people, the less that they came out to talk to the public, the better. Well, Hunter Biden came out today and he went after, ICE and illegal immigration and, just a lot of crazy stuff that my guess is that most Democrats are not going to enjoy even listening to. But the bottom line is most Democrats want the Bidens out of their lives. They want Joe Biden and Jill Biden. I mean, former President Biden, let's be respectful. Former President Biden needs to enjoy his retirement and go into silence for a while, and his wife the same. And Hunter Biden definitely needs to go into retirement, because none of these people are helping the Democrats. They're not helping anybody. All they do is bring back memories of, frankly, a very, very bad presidency for the Democrat Party, a presidency that ended up destroying the party, and a lot of their problems happened because of the Biden presidency. So go away, guys. Go away. Nobody really wants to hear from you. And the last people who want to hear from you are Democrats, to say the least. Well, we remembered today Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway, of course, great author, very popular author. He wrote that novel about the Spanish Civil War that became a very successful movie. He also wrote The Old Man in the Sea, about that Cuban fisherman. And, I think he lived in Cuba for a while, too. I believe he did. But, he died in 1961. I believe that he committed suicide in 1961 here in the United States. But, Hemingway was a good writer. He was a good author, wrote a lot of books. And the movie that was made out of that book, For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is a book about the Spanish Civil War, is one of my favorite movies. And that book itself is a pretty good book for anybody who wants to get a sense, a little bit of history about the Spanish Civil War. So we remember today Ernest Hemingway, born on this day, 1899, and passed away in 1961. Thank you for listening. Everybody have a great day. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas.